Name again, Kofi Blankson, certified agile leader, innovation professional. I work for Standard Chartered as CIO. So I think let me just leave it there. And I'm happy to be here again for this session. So I just wanted to share with you some thoughts around how organizations can transform and improve, given the theme for this year's AIA conference. And these are things that many of us have done or we do on a daily basis, trying to engage certain organizations, either that we work for them or we are consulting with them. You would agree with me that innovation really is what separates leaders from followers. And this is one of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs. And I'd like to advise, or I try to advise people that I engage with, is that, look, I think it's better to go the leadership route because that's where you get to find value and also create value for yourself, and then people can run back to you because you find yourself relevant. On to the next slide. Again, I like to start with everything today is changing. The way we used to do business before is not what we do today. For us in the financial services industry, especially on the back of the more recent, debt exchange program, DDP, COVID, if you are here and you from logistics, maybe I've seen some of my friends from Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority, clearly the war again in Ukraine, more recently that in Israel, is going to affect the way we operate. And so how do we adapt to these changes that, is happening real fast? Because you would risk being left behind if you do not, innovate or think in a different way to say, look, how then can I diversify my business, or how can I do something different such that I don't go extinct? And I don't want to go back into history about the Kodaks of the world, the Nokias of the world, and where they are today. My favorite of all of those is Coca-Cola, that has still remained relevant. And I'm looking forward to this Christmas already, because Coca-Cola would always do a novel advert that grabs everyone, regardless of whether you drink Coke or not. And I remember the time I was growing up in Nigeria, one of my favorite jokes I like to tell is some young guy walks up to a Coca-Cola seller, and because she wanted the other one, she says she wanted the Coke that was ripe. She wanted Fanta. But everyone knows Fanta. You could have said Fanta, right? But because Coke was so in the mind, she thought that, hey, look, I want the ripe Coke, when she was referring to Fanta. So, again, for some of the organizations I've dealt with and some of the changes that we saw, we tried to say that, hey, look, can we look at your strategy and then get some of you to break yourselves into different operating models, which is call people from various parts of the organization to say, if you are looking for new revenue streams, if you are looking for new products, or you want to review your products that are not doing well, how then can you do this? And so we thought that innovation in itself was the way to do that. And so for one organization that I know, we set up what we call an innovation squad, which is to bring people from various parts of that organization. And then they started to attack various levers or various categories of the strategy. Fast forward to today, that organization, no doubt, has been tagged as one that has, if you want, delivered a masterclass of resilience, because obviously they've been impacted by the DDEP, and I'm talking about a bank, if you wanted to know in this case. Beyond that also, we have seen that these organizations, or this organization is winning across the continent some innovation challenges. We've participated in a number of hackathons. And for example, this organization has about 700 staff that now about 10% of them, which is about 70 of them, have become innovators in themselves. But how did they do this? I think that it's really a conversation around leadership. That's one. Then there's also that innovation, and I want to dwell on the first two. Because at the end of the day, once you are able to get these right, your performance is going to go up. Your sustainability initiatives will go up as well. And then you would also have some good data or go digital, because now if hitherto people would come to your branch and now they cannot come to your branch, how then do you initiate some self-service portals with the use of like maybe a smartphone or any other way? So I've seen organizations gamify these themes. They are creating games or models that people can play such that they can improve on their leadership skills. They are creating games or different themes under innovation such that the staff or people who they work with can play these games such that they have a highly innovative mindset. They are also creating sub-games under performance, sustainability, and data and digital. So it's really around how do we transform and improve the organization. And innovation really is about solving problems. A lot of the time we feel that innovation is creating a new product or coming up with something big that we have not seen before. It's really around, if you want, the subtlest of things, the mundane things. How can we not have this seat here and still have an engaging roundtable discussion? If you think of that in a different way, that in itself is innovation. If we talked about, for us in the room who are Ghanaians, the domestic debt exchange program, how could we have avoided that in the beginning? If you have challenges today and you think about what the motorway is today and all of the demonstrations that are happening, how can we not just show the challenges but get together as a team or a group of collaborators to say, we want to solve for these everyday challenges? If you want, you feel that your business has been impacted in one way or the other, suddenly that your revenue lines are dropping, how do we sit and say, hey, look, if we sit like this for the next 5 years, we probably will not get what we are getting. We will probably have to send some of our colleagues home such that you'll be left with the MD, the chief operating officer. Even the chief finance officer may even go home if he's not careful. So the MD and the top two people will run the organization. So really it's around, thinking about new ways of solving these challenges. So I tried to define innovation really, and I will share the slides with you, but I won't go into it. But we thought about innovation being services that add value to an organization. How relevant is your organization today? How relevant are you as a person? And Daniel and I were talking about when we started this whole Agile in Africa journey, where some of us were and where we are now, and how we, through Agile in itself, have brought relevance to ourselves, brought relevance to our organizations. Because I can tell you for free and probably put my last dollar on it that, look, this is what would turn the ship around for you as an individual. Especially if you feel or you see yourselves like me 8 years ago when I felt like I was stuck in my career and I met with Nana and things have changed today. So really it's around adding that value to you yourself as a person or an individual, and also doing that for your organization. I try to talk about the different types of innovation, and like I said earlier, it could be bringing up a new product, be looking at process that probably, again, for us in the bank, either to, for example, when clients apply for a loan, it may take 3 days. Today, we've brought that down to 2 hours. In fact, there are other organizations that brag and say a loan in 24 hours or even less. How do we use data and digital to say, with all of the details that we have for you on your Ghana card, we know what your credit score is based on one behavioral mode or the other, or the way you load data or credit onto your phone. We can issue you a $20,000 loan in less than a minute. And when you are going to default, because we have your details, your bio details, we can fetch you. So those are some of the things around process. But for me, really, what is important is the business model innovation. Businesses, like I said, because of all that's happening, we saw COVID. We've seen the Russia-Ukraine war. We are seeing one in Israel today. What does it mean for us, even though we are sitting here comfortably in this ISA room here in Ghana? And for even our friends who sit in other parts of the world across overseas, right? How can we change our businesses to ensure that, one, we are creating, we are delivering, and we are capturing a certain value? It's really important. And that's the message that I want us to take away from the room. So business model innovation is really important. And I think that if you are the founder or the owner of that business and you're feeling like, look, what do I need to do next? I think that you need to extend a certain, if you want, olive branch to maybe your friends, your colleagues within the organization. Call them into a room and say, hey guys, this is where we are today. If we are not careful, we will not be where we want to be tomorrow. And so how do we attack this head on? It's very important that using that, and I'm sure you already know, that it's an agile mindset, like bringing people from different parts of the cross-pollination. Some people call it human operating model. Others call it an operating system. So it doesn't have to be, for example, if you find yourself in finance, you are saying, look, this is a finance challenge. It's not a finance challenge. It's an organizational challenge. You can even bring someone as, I don't mean it in a negative sense, please, even the janitors. How do you bring them to say, hey, look, we are here because of the client, or we are here because of the customer. What else can we create such that, you know, they can give us, they can pay premium for what or the services that we are offering. So I try to talk about why innovation matters, or what some of the benefits are. And I think I've hinted on it already. You want to stay ahead of the curve. You want to be in competition. Again, I have learned over the last 2 years that it's really not about competition. It's about collaboration. Who can you piggyback on? So, for example, I know that Vodafone has maybe God knows how many clients or subscribers. But I'm in a bank. I want the 1 million subscribers that Vodafone has. But I cannot start to get 1 million on day one. Can I sit together with Vodafone to say, hey, I have this product. You also need my services, because I have certain clients who probably have the wherewithal to contribute to what you're doing. Can we sit together such that on day one, we have 1 million clients, rather than me starting from zero? Because it will take me forever to get to 1 million. But you already have 1 million. Let's co-create. So that's one of the ways. So rather than stay ahead of the competition, we say collaboration is the new competition. So can we come together and do something new? If you find yourself in logistics, so for example, GPHA, how many of your clients are bringing in containers such that they cannot clear within a number of days? Can we come together and say, look, you have the financing. These guys, I know that definitely they will pay. And so can you help them? That's also collaboration or co-creation in another sense. So again, new market conditions. And a typical example that I give here is, now that with all the war that's happening, with all the wheat that used to come from that side of the world that is not coming here today, how can we get some companies here in Ghana to say, come, let's enable you, or create a certain enabling environment such that you can match up to the demand that we are looking for. And so that's really around adapting to new market condition and also creating opportunities for growth. Because definitely, once you do this, you will not stay where you are, but growth definitely will find you. I think there are a few more things underneath, but really, I love the bit around customer satisfaction. That's really why we are here. If your clients are complaining, forget about it. A lot of the time we feel that, yes, we have great products, we have great services, maybe our customer satisfaction index is telling a 9.5 or a 10, but you still have one client that's complaining. Don't you feel that that's an opportunity to even review what you're doing on a daily basis? So definitely innovation in itself, and innovation really I like to tie to that creativity. our theme really is around creativity, right? And innovation is equivalent to creativity. How do we improve client service? How do we improve the client experience, regardless of whether we've been here 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or not? So that's also one of the things that is a benefit that I like to share with you. So typically, again, we can have these great ideas, but a lot of the time, you would agree with me that 60% of the time, many of our projects that we ideate do not go to market. And that's where we talk about the challenge around speed to value. So when it comes to implementation, how well can we implement? So I highlight a strategy around implementing innovation in a strategic sense, such that you can implement effectively. And one of the ways to do this is to create persons or pockets of individuals within your organizations who you can hold accountable to say, look, yes, this is your BAU, and when I say BAU, this is your business as usual, or this is your expectation, but for a stretch, we want you to deliver another 5% of what our overall objective is. That's really creating champions, right? And there are certain persons within an organization who are excited to do this. These are things that will bring a spring to their feet. Maybe they're feeling stuck on the rows or on the desk and say, hey, look, I'm sitting in this small corner and all I do is this. But they have appetite, they have energy for doing something else. And so you can include these guys by getting them to be accountable for some of these innovation ideas that you have, and then you can get them to deliver this. I like that around a core collaboration. So again, from the banking sense, or even from wherever you are, whether you're in logistics, oil and gas, a lot of organizations are siloed in the way they operate. So you have someone who sits in HR and all they think about is HR. There's someone who sits in corporate affairs, brand and marketing, I beg your pardon, and all they think about is brand and marketing. There's someone who's accountable for audit, and all that they think about is audit. There's some of us who sit in IT, and we think that, yes, once we turn the light on, you're able to send your email, your laptop is working, the ATMs are dispensing cash. That's all we think about. How do we get everybody in the room to want to deliver a certain openness or transparency, such that if we decide today that, look, our revenues are declining by, say, 10%, how can we come together again to say we want to collaborate and do something new? Okay, so again, by way of examples, it's around small incremental improvements. You can start small, but you finish big. You don't have to see innovation, like I said from the beginning, as bank. Now we have a new, sorry, I'm not advertising Belacqua, by the way. But if this bottle had 2 curves here, such that I could easily hold it, right? Is that not innovation in itself? At the end of the day, it's really the content, right? How about if we turn this upside down and say, now, this is where we would open it from? That's innovation in itself, right? So you can start small and head out to getting a big or major breakthrough. So that's really around innovation. I wanted to share an example with you, but I just got a brainwave. But when it comes, I would share with you, really. So again, some barriers that you see to innovation are these, and I've seen this happen in many organizations, including the ones that we talked about. And how do you overcome these barriers? There's always challenges around budgets. People are worried that, look, yes, we are saying that we are constrained with money, but why do you want to spend money to do something new? Here's what I like to say. If you think that ignorance is expensive, what's the other one? Say again? Is that the other way around? So at least I know that you are following me. Great. So if you think that education is expensive, I got you. If you think that education is expensive, try ignorance. Are you with me? Yeah, try ignorance and just sit aloof and pretend that nothing really is happening. Then you have things around, you say what, there's lack of skilled person. No. The world is a global village. You can go and find skills online. In fact, there are many jobs today that you can work remotely. And the people, and I'm going to use that advice when I get to the end of my presentation. There are people that you can find. Don't give use to say that we don't have skilled personnel. No, there are people skilled sitting right in your organization. There's some people who, if you don't call them to the party, they won't show up. How many of us are like that? No, I know we are. Yeah, that's it. There's some people like that. If you don't call me, I won't show up. But I am skilled, well enough, endowed or skilled, and I have a certain knowledge that I can bring to the table. Then there are other things around. They say inadequate infrastructure. What infrastructure do you need? I rather see it as forget about infrastructure and think around the whale that, hey, look, we need to improve. We need to innovate. I think resistance to change, everybody knows about that. Anyone seeing something new for the first time say, hey, no, look, we've done this God knows how many number of years for us who are Ghanaians. We have a quote that we say, it's MBA, which is like Masters of Business Administration, if you understand it, right? But in Ghana, we say Mibahache, which is around for a long time. If you've been around for a long time, so then let's go back to the days of Adam. Yeah, let's go back to the days of Adam. But Adam is long gone. Abraham has come. Who else? When you come to today's world, Jerry Rawlings is gone. John Ejiokum Kufuor is gone. Bill Clinton is gone. George Bush is gone. Who else is gone? And it's a new era today. So don't say this is how we've done it and we've been doing this for a long time. You would die if you have that mindset. That's a fact. You have got to start to think new ways. Give yourself a blank check in your mind and say, hey, look, how do we do this? Rather than take a posture of, hey, look, this is how we've done it. My grandfather's, this is a recipe. No. There are certain things that you can't say you want to stay on. Then, my favorite here is, some of us are so risk averse. Okay, so what happens if we do it and we fail? Innovation really is around experimenting. Yes, you will fail. But because you failed, you would have learned something new. How many of us are with me on this one? Yeah. If you say that you are afraid of failure, then don't wake up at all. Keep sleeping. Right? So that fear of failure or what the negative consequences is, and I was talking with one of my friends yesterday, and he says, look, there are investors who will give you 10 million. But in the back of their minds, they know that because you're experimenting with whatever you're doing, you are likely to fail. But they will not come, real hard. Help me with the time if I'm preaching, yeah? Awesome. So they will not tell you that, hey, look, because you have failed and all of that, so that's the end of the world. No. How do we have the gaffers of the world today? Do you know how many experiments? Of course, we all remember the light bulb. Look at how many lights are in the room. How many times did this guy not try that experiment? If he was risk averse and says, hey, I'll fail, we'll probably be in the dark by now. How many of us slept in the dark yesterday from maybe 5 until 12? Yeah, many of us did. You get it. But thank God for light. Thank God for light. Thank God for light. So I encourage us that, look, put away that fear that we will fail. Innovation, agile in itself, is really around experimenting. What are you experimenting with? Because look, the more you do, the better you learn. You understand? You go ahead of the curve. And who knows, you may be the next Google or Facebook or Amazon and be the $1 trillion company or 3 like Apple. Yeah? So I think I've talked about this. There's no way that you can get into an innovation conversation with a number of post-its. God knows how many post-its we've used, open space conversations. Should we do this? Should we do that? Again, I see it as, driven by Agile is really around creating that culture that encourages all of us, whether you are an employee, you are a CEO, wherever you sit, to think creatively. And that's what we are trying to talk about. What creative ways can we do these things? What creative ways can we have conversations like this? What other ways can we bring industry experts into the room such that we can move from a Ghanaian point of view our country forward? We can become like the developed nations of the world. We can become the next Google or Amazon or Apple, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Depends on, and I feel like, look, others have done this. Why can't we do it? We talk about copy and paste, Control C, Control V. How difficult is that? It's just 2 buttons, Control C, Control V, right? So, and I remember when I got into my innovation class the first day, my professor said, he says, copying is not stealing. Should I? Yeah, copying is not stealing. I like your dress, ma'am. Red shoes, beautiful. Tomorrow I show up like this. Did I steal her clothes? No. Daniel, I love your blue. It's my favorite color. So I see the way he puts his pocket handkerchief there and say, oh, I'll do the same to your pocket handkerchief. Copying is not stealing. So there are tons of ideas, there are tons of initiatives that we can copy and implement in a Ghanaian context. Right? Copying is not stealing. Don't forget that. And when you do this, you are responding to change in a positive way. For me, again, it's really around delivering value to our clients. Agile. The client is right in the middle. And anytime I've had a conversation around Agile or the presentations where I introduce new people to Agile, I say, look, the customer is the king, Agile is the queen. I remember I said that last year, right? The customer is king, but Agile is the queen. Agile is the queen that will take care of the king. Are you with me? It's really around delivering value to our clients. So that culture of creativity, innovation is driven by Agile, that mindset that we can improve. We can do things differently. There are new ways of doing this. I won't go into all of this because of time. Remember a few years ago in Dubai, I think it was in 2016 or 2017, I saw an office complex that had been printed instead of built, 3D printing. Today we also have virtual reality in training. But I love this one around augmented reality. And I tell you what, I saw a pair of Teves, you know the tourists that the tourists walk around a lot with. And I loved those. I've always worn this. I saw it on Amazon. And I thought it was beautiful. So I ordered for one. It cost me $30 and cost me another $30 to bring it to Ghana. When it got into Ghana, it wasn't Teva. It was some funny name. Some Jofufu or something I've not heard before. I'm like, what? How come I paid $60 for this? If I knew Robin was coming in, I could have sent that money to him for him to get me a pair. What's my point? If I had seen it the way it was on the website, do you think I would have bought it? How many of us are being deceptive to our clients today in one form or the other, such that augmented reality, especially in retail, can solve? Retail is started to go real big in the next few years. Today, as I sit here, I don't have to go to the supermarket. I have to log onto the website. They'll deliver the goods to me. But how do I see? We say seeing is believing. How do I see and be comfortable that, yes, this is what I wanted and this is what I ordered for? With the wig, what you see is what you get. Augmented reality is innovation. Because if you don't do this, the number of persons who will come and tell you that, hey, look, I wanted this and I got something else and I'm returning the goods is going to go up. How do we apply these major retailers across the world are using today in our sense? Don't tell me about that we don't have infrastructure. Infrastructure is there. Like the advert again, I love adverts. There's an advert that says all you need is warm water for your Milo drink, your tea. All you need is data. All you need is a smartphone. The technology is available. I mean, I don't want to go into that part of the world, right? But how do we get augmented reality in retail? How do we apply that in our industry in itself? Yes, I like the bit around what some of the shipping lines do today, that I can track my container, where it is and all of that. But what next? What next? What next? So, real quick, some of the techniques that you can use, and my favorite really is brainstorming. Let's get into the room, let's talk about it, and I'm sure when we get into some of our breakout sessions, we put a challenge up, we can talk about that as well. SWOT analysis, everyone who's done, whatever, know what a SWOT analysis is. Then there's also design thinking. Put yourself in the shoes, empathize with the client. If you were wearing these shoes, how will it feel for you, right? That's it. It's important that you measure success at the end of the day. There are various ways of measuring success, but my favorite really is the feedback that I get from my clients. What do you think about this? Forget about all of those surveys, innovation index, KPIs. They are all English. What is the client saying? Word of mouth really is important, right? So the best way to get that, like I said, is customer feedback. What are they saying about you? Get them into the room. Once you hear from them, you would be happy. So I wrap up with this really, and is around the roadmap on innovation. And my key message here really is innovation is not a one-time event. It's continuous. Creativity flows. Every morning, our creative juices flow. If you're coming to ASA, there was traffic on the N1. You would think about alternate routes, right? Your Google map, they think about alternate routes. Even when you miss the turn, that's creativity in itself. So it's always a continuous process. Clearly, one benefit is helping organizations align to the efforts. I think, let me wrap up, and my call to action really is, when you leave this room today, what will be your status symbol? And for Nana and the entire Akaditi team, I think your status symbol that you could be proud of is having to hold AIA for the last 8 years and bringing people like us into the room. When I started my career before I met Nana, I was way back. Today, I'm able to sit with the Daniels, Nana. I met great people like William, and I'm seeing you, and I'm sure that we would catch up. But what does it mean for us? And my advice really here to the young people in the room, or anyone who's feeling stuck in the career, is innovation, creativity, having this agile mindset is what will keep the powder dry. Powder dry that you can spread. You will add value to yourself. You will add value to your clients. You would add value to everything that you do. For us as young people, our status symbol really is, I have a great job. I drive a nice car. I live in the urbanized part of the country. Is that enough? What legacy can we leave behind? Like the Nana and Akaditis of the world. So, again, everything is changing. Please change, or don't wait to be changed. Thank you very much.
That was truly inspirational. Truly. Kofi is a Scrum Master, works in a bank. Marvelous, thank you. Being a Scrum Master and working in a bank is almost an oxymoron. Opposites juxtaposed. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think what you have achieved, and remember it's 6 years ago, I saw you, from where you are now, is staggering. This is a result of a change in thinking. We've been talking about the thinking, and this is why this is accessible to all. So, Kofi, thank you for that brilliant, brilliant speech. It's a great way to get Friday started. really energizing people. So I think we're all grateful for that. So I guess you know the drill. I'm sure there are some questions for Kofi. How did he do it? Why did he do it? When did he do it? Where did he do it? What does this mean for me? We've got Joey at the back there, please.
Thank you. Yeah, so as the world pushed into the fourth industrial revolution, businesses are struggling to make the right decisions. And I remember my teacher said, if you fail to make a decision, it is a decision. As a business person, you just cannot afford to remain behind. My question is, how can the business owner use agile approach to make a quick decision?
Is that not working? Use this one.
No, thanks, Joey, and that's a great question. So business owners using Agile to make a quick business decision. In fact, like you say, not making that decision is a decision in itself, right? If you are failing to make a quick decision and you feel like it's not working for you, I think that's enough for you to say, I need to make this decision real quick, right? I try to talk about not sitting down aloof and waiting for things to happen. You've got to be driven by something, right? If you're driven by, for example, revenue, if you're driven by client centricity, I think that's one way to make that quick decision. That I want to satisfy my clients, right? That's one. If you look at data, and maybe that's another part that I really didn't touch on a lot, right? But what is the data in your organization telling you? So if you look at complaints, if you look at the number of clients that are not satisfied, if you look at the corridor talk, in fact, many clients these days don't even come to you to complain. They go straight to Twitter or X and make a complaint, right? If you want to be embarrassed by those, then stay there and don't make a decision. So really for me, and to answer your question directly, it's really around, adopting that open mindset to say, look, let me try this. Just decide. And I remember, was it 2017, when I saw the first billboard around the Circle area when I was coming to work. I said, look, what's this Agile that everyone is talking about? My boss was talking about. I had to go all the way to Malaysia. And there's a story I like to tell a lot. I said, look, let me go and learn about this Agile. Because then, that alone in itself was a decision. Traveling 12 hours, sleeping in the airport for 8 hours, getting there on the morning when the training was starting, and then in the morning when I woke up, I was going into class, right? So business leaders need to realize that there are several examples and success stories that Agile is delivering. And so if you want to make that decision, look on these examples and, get better. Joey, I hope that answers you well, yeah? Awesome.
Thank you for that. Who's next?
I think for a lot of organizations, it can be daunting, best in the upfront work it takes to iterate through innovation. How did you convince the organizations that you've been a part of that was a worthwhile investment to make?
Good question. Thanks, Colin. So I think it's really sitting around with the C-suite executives right at the top to say, look, if we are not careful, we're going to lose out. And there was a presentation that we had, an innovator coming to our organization to say, look, your traditional ways of making money or revenue in fact, there's a World Bank data around that, particularly for banks. So if you go on this trajectory, do you want to decline? Do you want to see the ship sink? So I think that was one of the ways that we got them to get into it, right? The other way also was to share some of the knowledge articles, get into day-to-day conversations to say, hey, look, we are seeing this in this market. We are seeing this in this industry. What does this apply for us? Then once you get the buy-in of the top, then you go also onto the bottom and say, hey guys, AI today is touted as the new electricity. Data is being said is the new oil. What are we doing with those? In fact, AI is saying that it's going to take jobs away. But no, it's also going to create jobs. So the earlier we start innovating, the better. And so I think some of these stories really helped, the conversation along those. And, they bought into it, Colin. So I encourage anyone to share data, share success stories, the naysayers, because definitely people would talk back at you and say, look, I don't see value in what you're doing. But it's really around being persistent, being resilient in your thinking. And at the end of the day, I think someone, as time indicates, and say, hey, look, this that you've been talking about is really real. Yeah.
To answer your question?
Yes, I think so too. And again, we had a time with what Sath was talking about. You mentioned storytelling.
Yeah.
And the importance and the fact that that's how we all live our experience through storytelling. So, yeah, very nice, very nice. Who's next? Gentleman closest to the window in a nice tan shirt.
Okay, my name is Patrick. You said copying is not stealing, right? What happened to intellectual property? Just for clarity's sake.
So thanks, Patrick. I think that's a great question, just to provide some clarity on that. Intellectual property, if you have a great idea and you think it's your original idea, go and have it patented, right? Put a trademark on it, put a patent on it, so that when anyone takes it, then we know that it's your idea, okay? And I didn't mean it in a negative sense, right? I try to look at some of the common things that we see on a daily basis. There's no way that if we said we wanted to bring an ocean into the University of Ghana, artificial ocean, our friends in Dubai will come and say, you stole from us. No, it's good. You get it. But when it comes to things around academia, your own research, then once you put a patent on it and you see somebody copying and not putting your name or giving you the credit, then you can take them on. And I think there's regulation also that helps, in that direction. So please feel free to copy me, copy what I said, copy this whole idea. We won't come after you and say that you stole, okay? I hope I answer you well, Patrick. Yeah, thanks a lot.
And it's very interesting. A lot of corporations actually use intellectual property as a strategy. So they actually throw it out there.
Yeah.
Let people copy.
Yeah.
They've patented it,
Yeah.
and they're just counting up the revenue. So it is quite a good question in quality, but hopefully that clarified things. Have we got any more questions for Kofi?
Nana is at the back.
I'm not going.
Well, what can I say? Kofi, you've, from day one, you've always been an inspiration.
Thank you, sir.
And it's not often that you find a CIO who's also a Scrum Master. So that's like a massive one for me by way of an inspiration.
Thank you, sir.
I think you're probably one of the few in Africa or globally that is a Scrum Master and a CIO of a very large organization. So from day one, you've been an inspiration.
Thank you, sir.
Now, my question to you is, working in a global bank, against the backdrop of all the challenges that are currently happening, have been happening since COVID and now, how have you been able to keep these ideas around agile, you talk about Scrum, Kanban, other ideas, Lean. How have you been able to keep the conversation on the table, especially with executives who might be preoccupied with bottom line and revenue and reducing costs? and all the other HR issues that they face, how have you been able to keep the conversation on the table? Yeah, that's something that's been on my mind for a while. And I have a second question after that.
No, thanks. Thanks for the question. It's really around the skills that you have and how you bring them to bear within the organization, right? It's also around the influence that you carry. So, for example, you see a challenge and you say, hey, look, I think that we can solve this in this way. Once you're able to convince one executive, you go on to the next one. Then gradually you're making yourself, or making raving fans of yourself within the room. The next time they get into a chat, your name is definitely going to come up to say, hey, look, why don't we give these guys the opportunity, right? And then we also have had to do some road shows, if you want, or getting others to try and embrace the thinking that we bring and some of the things that we learn, to say, hey, look, why don't we do this way? And the example that I was given was, we started off as a small, I think it was our five odd of people of us, right? And then gradually we started talking about it. Now everyone starts to talk about it. Now we are grown to, God knows, maybe 70 plus, right? So it's around ensuring that your conversation in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, or your message is unique. What you say to Colin, you say to Robin, you say to Nana, you say to everyone else. Then it becomes like a song. It's like, oh, we've heard this song over and over again. Why don't we give them a chance? Then once you're given a chance or given an opportunity, you have to prove yourself to say, look, for this opportunity that I've been given, I need to deliver this result. I think the results also give you an extra room to say, now when we gave them the chance, they delivered. And so when opportunity comes, definitely you get that. So that's how I've been able to manage that. And, Nana, it keeps us going. Yeah.
Fantastic. And my last and final question. I can see Bionu's got his hand up. In Ghana.
Yeah.
You live here, you work here, you went to school here, Nigeria, West Africa, in Ghana. You know the culture, you understand the terrain, the landscape. And we've got people from different organizations here, from the public sector, Bank of Ghana, Ghana Cylinder. We've got people from the private sector. I think there's others from other public sector organizations. We've got people from the private sector, MTN, Vodafone. You got so many other, Fidelity Bank. You got, several from all across Ghana. Oh, Gapoa is here, Ghana Ports Authority as well. What made you? I mean, you could have just continued working in the same old way. And it kind of works, it kind of works. It's been ticking over for the last 50 odd years, yeah? It kind of works. But what made you to start thinking around this agile stuff? What made you to start becoming curious and to want to find out more and to think that it's not something meant for crazy people, or it's something that you can adopt, especially in a bureaucratic environment, like a banking environment, and a global bank for that matter. What made you to start exploring this and to want to go to Malaysia to study Scrum? And what started this? You could have just been like everybody else, just work in the same old way. What made you look at this?
Thank you, Nana. So, how do I answer this, really? I think it's a tough question, but I think I was driven by the fact that I've seen successes elsewhere, and the fact that when you read and you watch, you wonder why we don't have, and I don't mean this in a negative sense, please, I say this humbly, we don't have a number of Ghanaian businesses that have transcended generations. You get it? So that's one. And I'm sure I'm going to get a swipe for this, but I'm answering Nana's question. There's a certain mediocre mind amongst us in a certain way. And I felt like, what's that recipe that's making these ventures like the Googles and Amazons and other companies thrive, such that from a founder's mentality point of view, if the father found it or the grandfather found it, he gave it to the father and he went to the grandson, and then somebody else comes. What's that ingredient? What is it that we are losing, right? I think my research pointed me to that mindset. And having that culture of saying you can do things in a different way and you can get a different result. Because, I mean, I've been stuck in a rut, right? My career was, I mean, at a point, and maybe let me say, I was driven by the frustration at the time in my career. You cannot stay in one place, and Daniel and I were talking about it earlier on. You can be in one place for God knows how many years. Personally, I'm the guy who wants to do this and move on to the next one. I'm like that. I get bored maybe easily, right? So I found out that if I didn't adapt or innovate, then I'll probably be on my way out. It's also not about the paycheck. It's about the smile and the number of thank yous I get at the end of the day. For every client who comes back to say thank you, that's what keeps me happy. You get it. So Nana, to answer your question, the frustration I was feeling, I was encouraged by the potentials that I was seeing. And when I started to read, and my boss, Sheikh, at the time was talking about agile, then I said, boss, what's this agile thing about, right? So what my own research led me, and I went around, and eventually, we are where we are. We have tried, and we can still try. And that's why I'm happy that we are doing AIA 2023 for the 8th year in a row. We have a number of us. Many of us today, we would brand ourselves as agile evangelists because we would keep talking about it because we know what it means. I hear us when we talk about the public sector and all the challenges there. We have tried to walk to them to say, hey, look. And I remember the great work you did with the Ghana Police Service today, right? But that's why I talked about leadership. If we can convince leadership that, hey, guys, all of this that we are going through today, if we got into a room and say, let's have an open space conversation, what are our priority areas? We can solve all the challenges that this country has, all of us right here. Let's forget about what happens for the rest of the day, right? So from the presidency, from whoever is in the ministry, forget about all the ministry of innovation and all of those, right? We can solve these challenges because we've seen that these have been done elsewhere and we can do same. Sometimes at our age today, we have too many challenges. In fact, motorway should not be our challenge at age 63 years on. Really? You get it. So I forgot the question, but the answer I remember very well. And I get so passionate about this that we can solve for these. If only we can expose the successes that we've seen that Agile is solving. Those guys who sat in that room 13, that 13 of those guys who said, look, this is a manifesto. And every politician today comes with a manifesto. I dream of a Ghana tomorrow where no politician will come and say, look, this is my manifesto. What are your challenges? Let's prioritize those challenges. Forget about manifesto, right? Nana, I hope I answer your question well. Yeah, Bjorn has a question and then there's one here.
Okay, so we are going to run late. We're going to take 3 more questions. But Okokoto, General, you're going to manage this. It's 2-minute responses, okay? 2-minute responses. And we're going to chop it, okay? Cool. Fire.
Thank you very much. Just to put your presentation into a 20-second kind of summary, everything is changing and changing very fast. If we go back to what Marcus said yesterday, it showed a slide where the main problem is actually trying to catch up with the pace of change. Now you've said innovation is all about transforming and improvement. So basically transforming, moving from our current position to where we feel we ought to be moving from A to B and see if we've got all the drivers to actually achieve that. Now, the question I want to actually ask, you're actually talking about successes as well. So my question is about managing the success. You talked down the aspect of maybe KPIs, which I understand that is more managing the organizational success. My question is, what are your major measurement yardsticks to measure the outcomes of your innovation and transformation?
Thank you very much. So in one breath, my success will be the number of, I used a word yesterday with a friend, said, how many microcosms of you can we have? How many people can show up to say, I've been modeled or role modeled by Biodun, and because of that mindset that Biodun have or has, Biodun is my North Star, and I can point to him at any point in time as my point of reference. So that's one person. The next person points to Biodun. The next person points to Biodun. Such that if Biodun is not there tomorrow, there are 5, 10, 20 people who can say, because Biodun was not there, we have this mindset. So that's my number one measure of success, right? Another measure of success is a conversation in the room. What are we talking about? I'm not gossiping about Robin. I'm not gossiping about Nana and what he's doing. I'm talking about what are the challenges in the room, or what are the challenges that we saw in the morning when we're coming to work that we can solve, such that my friends can say, hey, look, why don't we put this in an innovation ideation basket? Or let's get into a room and try to solve for that. So that's another measure of success. The most important measure of success for me, what I talked about really, is the client. What clients saying? What are the clients saying? So for example, my bank, for at the last CIMG awards, we won 6 awards on customer service. What did we do differently? Maybe because we are online, I'm able to share. But what the client is saying really is important. So if your clients are saying all the nice things about you, then I think that you can pat yourself in the back and say, look, done well. Now, managing that success is dangerous because it sets you up, if you're not careful, for failure or complexity. You will think that you are doing well, but being innovative also is continuous. So you take the applause, take all the fans, like we say in Ghana, right? Omo, there's a way I want to say it in Nigeria. Sorry, all my Nigerian is gone, right? But I remember. So take all the fans, take all the goza, 10 goza for Biodun. Immediately you take the goza, let's move on to the next thing. You get it. I think that mindset, that maturity helps you to maintain that. Biodun, I hope I answer you well, sir. Awesome.
I think there was one more question from a lady, and then we're going to move to the next section.
Hi.
Unfortunately, you're going to have to pick that one up after. So I do apologise, but we've got to get back on time. Madam, please.
Yeah. Before I start my question, I just want to apologize. I have a cold, so my voice is a bit funny. Yes, what I wanted to ask you, Kofi, is that let's just take a scenario that you take over a company, whether private, public, that is probably run down because BAU, like you're saying, business as usual. And then you come in as a leader and you want to turn things around. Is it possible to just give me some 3 steps on both sides, internal and external steps that could help with Agile to get the company going? You know, you want to look at it as like you're trying to start everything again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So while I'm sitting here, I may not be able to give you 3 questions, 3 answers, 3 on both sides, but you use the word turn things around. I recommend a book for you to read, Turn the Ship Around by David McKay. Fantastic, yeah, Turn the Ship Around. Fantastic book by all standards. It would guide your thinking. In that book, David talks about empowering people. So the first thing you need to do is empower people. Make everyone empowered enough to take a decision such that the decisions don't dwell or rest with you. Empower them to take decisions but be accountable. So that's one thing. I think collaboration also is important from an industry point of view or an external point. And you can draw up a stakeholder map. We can do that if you want, right? Who are the key people around who you can influence, who can be your raving fans, to say, look, you are doing something great within that organization, and we can help you go further faster. You understand? So that's another thing. I think that you've also got to identify even within the organization, some of those people who have been there for God knows how long. Experience is really important. Skills, experience are two things that you cannot do away with. So who are the most experienced guns in there? Make them your friends. Even as you step in, some of them may feel like, hey, look, you brought in an outsider, I've been here for God knows how long. Why didn't they give this to me? But when you make these guys your friends, they will start, working well with you. The last thing really is, I think it's fair to bring in an external resource. I'm all for consultancy, and I like consultants. But don't bring them in for the long haul. Let them come in and share some of the things that they've seen in other organizations. Sometimes when things happen organically, it doesn't help much. People like to, if you want, have a flavor of what's happening outside. When you bring someone from outside to come and infect them, right? Then that also is another way that you can do it. I think I shared 2 or 3, right? But please read that book by David McKay, Turn the Ship Around. It's your go-to manual. You'll be amazed at what you will do with your organization if you're new there. You're welcome, ma'am. Yeah.
Kofi, thank you so much.